Boeing 737-9s, which are part of the MAX series, are now flying again, following successful inspections being undertaken by key airline technician teams that were affected by the grounding that we know was mandated by the Federal Aviation Administration through an EAD just days after a door blowout incident on an Alaska Airlines aircraft. Alaska and United resumed flights with the 737-9. This was a real essential moment for Alaska especially. We know that they were being forced to cancel up to 150 flights per day, thus impacting their day-to-day operations, as they only had so many aircraft that could be drafted in for cover. Taking a look at fleet data, it became more than evident that for Alaska Airlines, the 737-9 represents around 20% of their fleet, whereas for United, while being the largest operator of the variant, it's more around 8%, and thanks to their sheer fleet size, they had available aircraft to come in and cover. These planes returned to service over recent weekends, following a grounding that occurred rapidly after, as I mentioned, that blowout incident. However, while the aircraft has returned to service, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is good. Alaska Airlines says the groundings and thus operational impact will cost them over $150 million USD, and United will also see their results impacted. And the reality of the situation is the fallout continues, trickling down from the 737-9 incident, and yes, even the ungrounding. Much focus has now been placed on the two remaining MAX variants that are uncertified. These are your 737-7s and 737-10s. As a result, and especially with these aircraft types being very popular with some customers, several are exploring opportunities away from the aircraft. Why is this? Well, there's no timeline on when the certification will occur, and for many airlines, they need to start building their fleet plans for, say, the next decade, and if they can't acquire this Dash 10 when they need them, they'll need to look elsewhere. This includes most notably United Airlines, whose chief executive said that they were building a new fleet plan that excluded the 737-10, expecting internally a delay of more than 5 years, which was viewed as the best case scenario. Then, further reports indicated the company was already engaging in conversation with Airbus. Ryanair, meanwhile, has opted for a different stance. This is substantially different, might I add, from what we are typically used to when thinking about how this airline responds to incidents. They're very vocal, they'll say it how there is, and typically they won't be afraid to have a go at a plane maker or aircraft type. But first, in the last half a decade, Boeing has experienced several issues with their MAX jets, just as I'm covering today, and each incident has spawned headlines from media outlets around the world, some of which will cover the story in a biased way, or maybe less factually. This is why Ground News informs you on how news stories are covered worldwide in an app and website. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the potential bias, factuality, and ownership of the sources, all backed by ratings from independent news monitoring organizations. The story of Boeing facing scrutiny over quality control and withdrawing a request for safety exemption caught my eye, and I was immediately able to see it was covered by more than 51 sources, including 9% left-leaning and 8% right-leaning. If I scroll down, I can see every article about this topic and compare headline. Next to every headline, we also get context as to who owns the source, how reliable it is, and more. You can track related topics of your own interest, such as Boeing, Airbus, or Aviation, or maybe something else to optimize your feed and allow you to keep track of developments through several leading sources. Ground News is a very valuable tool to fight media bias and also misinformation that we know, if anything, comes out following Boeing incidents. Sometimes stories are blown out of proportion. I encourage you to check them out, and if you go to ground.news/DJA, you'll get 30% off their Vantage plan, which includes unlimited access to every feature. Or you can try their Pro plan for less than $1 a month. Yep, less than $1 a month. Your subscription will help support an independent platform, not just in Ground News, but also my platform here. Back to Ryanair. As I was saying, they are typically very outspoken, but now they're saying should any airline within the United States look to offload aircraft from the 737-10 variant, the model of course under fire for meeting the struggling timelines, Ryanair would take these on at the right price to beef up their fleet. The reality is, for the low-cost carrier that is a European powerhouse, these 737-10s will transform their business, and while frustrations exist concerning the timeline for the EIS, they're firm in the belief that once the plane is operational, it'll be absolutely fantastic. Interestingly, the airline has also said it doesn't expect certification to be affected by the 9 grounding, which we know has been cleared up now. However, several parties have outlined other concerns centered on ongoing investigations into critical business practices at Boeing that could delay the eventual approval. Additionally, when you have Lease Corporation, who have been one of the more outspoken leasing companies, I'd say, in the past few years regarding developments on the industry, chiming in with their thoughts, well, it's always going to put a bit of an interesting spin. We know that ALC was pretty vocal about acquiring a Boeing NMA for customers, and they pushed for this release heavily. Now, its executive chairman has weighed in on those unfolding problems at Boeing that I've spoke of so greatly. One of the primary concerns is that what would happen if further production issues resulted in an accident, such as what took place on the 737-9. The belief is, per ALC, that if this were to occur, the FAA would halt all 737 production. It would be the most logical decision, and if this was to occur based on the chief's prediction, the ramifications would be huge. An incident would substantially impact Boeing and its customers on a human scale, and hurt the company deeply, especially when trickling down to customers, who would then face severe delays. The executive further said that he believes the Boeing board and critical management do not pay enough attention, and this is why we're in the position we are in, that of a plane maker under a substantial amount of pressure, with seemingly no end in sight. While I do briefly gloss over these comments from the ALC chief, that is of course pure speculation that if something was to happen, that is not confirmed. We don't know that something is going to happen. It's mere his thoughts on the absolute worst case scenario, which unfortunately in these situations, your lessors and customers do need to prepare for. In terms of the overall impact on your airline customers, well, considering the FAA has halted any production increase, delays will continue to be expected, and airlines, especially for those uncertified variants, will need to find ways to mitigate any capacity loss that they may experience. If you have any thoughts on this rather beefy update surrounding Boeing, you're more than welcome to let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for your support here on the channel. Make sure to check out Ground News down below in the description and or the pinned comment. Like I mentioned, you're supporting not only me as an independent creator across social networks and even a website, but also you're supporting an independent company such as Ground News. Thanks a lot for your support. Take care, do also be safe, and I will see you next time for your latest aviation news. And we'll fly.